Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, the show that goes inside the trillion-dollar business of sports, marketing, legal, deal-making, business, political, March Madness, more March Madness, and even more March Madness. We'll deal with that up top. We have some interesting other sports to deal with from an international perspective. Volleyball, golf, we'll end with football. Got a whole lot of stuff. Obviously, the NFL never sleeps, but sleeps during March if March Madness has anything to do with it. By the way, if you want the whole list of our top 15 plus our 5 tech and our 5 power of sports, look at us on CSNWashington.com and deal with us on Google Play, Audio Boom, subscribe on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, iTunes, all of those places you normally get it. We have it up there on a regular basis, and it's archived. So if you want to see the last 15 big sports issues over the last couple of years, it's up there too. March Madness obviously captures our attention. Everybody thinks they're going to the big Final Four in San Antonio and major events waiting there. They're looking at the deal from a corporate perspective, they meaning the NCAA. The music festival presented by the NCAA, Turner Live Events, and NCAA corporate champions AT&T, Coca-Cola, Capital One. The Hemisphere in San Antonio is part of the NCAA Final Four celebration. Maroon 5, by the way, the AT&T block party. You didn't know that Maroon 5 would capture the top of this podcast. A mega sporting event as big as March Madness and its crowning Final Four weekend. Organizers, sponsors alike, ever cognizant of the need to keep fans entertained, wall-to-wall shoulder programming, even when the on-court attraction is as good as it's going to get all year. Yet, that Sunday is a trade show. Been there before. Saturday, the 2 semis. Sunday, you pack it in with some other division championships, meetings of the NCAA. This is where stuff gets done. And by the way, a lot is going to get done. Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice may deliver recommendations from an investigation triggered by an FBI probe that led to charges last fall against coaches, agents, shoe company employees, and others. 12 of the tournament teams have been named by either the FBI or media that allege coaches and others have directed payments and improper benefits to recruits and players, breaking rules that define both the NCAA and the student athletes who created the $1.06 billion in revenue the NCAA earned in its 2017 fiscal year. Everybody asks whether it's going to derail the Final Four in March Madness. Criminal investigations don't move that way. They march to their own drummer, so I would predict that all of the legal issues may begin at the start of summer, maybe even later. But certainly prosecutors who deal with this don't really care about the Final Four or what they do with the investigation leading up to that. I think major issues are really more important as you look at what the NCAA is doing in the future. But what are they doing now? Well, they're generating money, and more money. $1.06 billion, $105 million in profit based on last year, and the rise in revenue came as a result of increases from TV and marketing fees, in addition to investment income and increased revenue from championship events. Television rights packages with tournament partners CBS and Turner accounted for more than $800 million of the revenue. $8 billion the networks have agreed to pay the tournament through 2032 also gives March Madness announcers some incentive, by the way, not to mention the FBI investigation during courtside broadcasts, but I think a lot of it is their perception that people want to see basketball. There will be time for reform later. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. Yet, let's talk about why the revenue is so big. March Madness Live, one of the reasons. Social media, 16 platforms this year, the most in the product's history. The digital platform introduces a new fast break feature offering continuous live streaming coverage throughout the first round of the NCAA tournament presented by AT&T and Lowe's. Every year, as the dollar signs get bigger, the digital stakes get higher, and what happens around the digital brackets often slides over to other sports. The madness spreads as well. And you can thank, frankly, not being a homer, but you can certainly thank NBC because of the Olympic coverage and because of their desire to make sure that the social media platforms are on the same footing as the television platforms. Social media features the March Madness selection show was the beginning of this. The conference champions, in addition to those seeking at-large bids, were, as you know, unveiled a little differently this year. The more aggressive move to social in 2018 represents the next generation of the March Madness selection show expansion: content, and more content. Well, you can't wait, and here are some of the normal numbers that everybody sees. The $6.3 billion corporate losses due to unproductive workers during March Madness. Here's my point on that. This is the annual study. They say an unproductive worker Thursday and Friday watches the games somewhere where he should be working. I say a happy worker is a productive worker. Let him watch Thursday and Friday. Let's get a social media petition out there, by the way. And also, $10.4 billion. That's the number wagered on the 2017 NCAA men's basketball tournament, according to our friends at Wallet Hub. $10.1 billion illegally. But after the Supreme Court gets a hold of all of this, who knows where the distinction is between legal and illegal in the future. Let's get ready for the play-ins. Thursday, Friday, round one, next set of rounds, economic impact. We'll talk about that next week, what the regions stand to benefit, because it is significant and is prolific. Let's talk sports that are international, and we'll talk golf a little later today and tennis. But how about volleyball? Well, it was left for dead when the AVP went under a few years ago, but the beach volleyball major series has resuscitated thanks to their friends at Red Bull. Last week, the only event in the U.S., the Beach Major Series Championship in Fort Lauderdale, won by Phil Dalhausser and his partner. But when you think about what happens as far as the long-term development of volleyball, men's and women's, Nick Lucina and Phil Dalhausser are certainly ambassadors to the sport. But the sport is international, and the American piece is a small part of it. The tournament goes to Gstaad in Switzerland on July 10, then Vienna, July 31. World Finals in Hamburg, Germany, August 14. First time you have an international event by Red Bull sponsoring it, basically carrying beach volleyball. The women drive the deal. The men go along for the ride. But let's talk about the business of it. 2008 gold medal winner in Beijing, American volleyball hero, Phil Dalhausser. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, beyond the boardroom, beyond the scoreboard, inside the boardroom, whatever you want to call it. We go beyond the traditional X's and O's. And we're talking volleyball today on the heels of the series that's gone national, international, developing beach volleyball to a level that we haven't seen in a while. We'll talk about the comeback of the sport. Certainly doesn't hurt if we have a world-class Olympic gold medalist on with us. Phil Dalhausser, along with Todd Rogers, won the 2007 AVP, or the gold in 2008, and he was AVP Tour champion, FIBA, FIVB world champ, a host of things. Your business guy as well. How you doing, Phil?
I'm good. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Well, excellent. And so, obviously, you're excited about the existing tour. Before we talk about your business and your gold medal acumen, talk a little bit about the tour that you're involved with today. I know it's coming to Fort Lauderdale Beach over this next weekend, and it's a season-long series. But give us kind of a snapshot about what the tour is all about.
Okay, so this weekend we're in Fort Lauderdale, and it's part of the FIVB tour, which is the international tour. And there's like a little series in the FIVB called the Beach Major Series, which runs all the biggest tournaments in the world. It's kind of like Grand Slams in tennis. They just run the biggest tournaments. So it's the first one of the year, and all the best teams in the world are here. And hopefully plan is to walk out of here with a gold medal.
Yeah, you and everybody else, which makes the competition pretty exciting, I think, probably. So, volleyball crescendo always during the Summer Olympics, 08, 12, 16. You won it in 08, obviously, contended elsewhere. Has the sport grown from a business perspective since your first gold in 08, and if so, how?
Actually, I think it's growing. In '08, it was we had a strong domestic tour called the AVP, which went bankrupt a couple years later in 2010. And we had options to play almost every weekend internationally. But now, last year we played, I don't know, maybe 12, 13 tournaments, which is the least we've played in maybe in my whole career. And this year we're getting more opportunities to play, starting early, like I said, this weekend. But yeah, I think it's growing, and a big reason is because of the Beach Major Series.
You think the Beach Major Series, would you say, resurrected the sport after the problems with the AVP? What's your sense?
It's the AVP is on the up and up, if you will, as well. They just signed a deal with Amazon to stream on Amazon Prime, which is great for the sport. But as far as internationally, I think the Beach Major Series is kind of the only reason why we have a tour worth playing on, if you ask me.
And you're at the kind of top level of the competition. Clearly, I'm sure there are some at the middle or lower levels and just getting in that want as many different tours as possible, kind of like the web.com is for golf and the orbital tournaments for tennis as well. Do we ever get back to that? Is it only something that grows before like 2020 in Tokyo or 2016 in Rio, or are we at a point now where corporations are going to step up and sustain the stability of the larger tour again?
That's a tough question. Usually as we get closer to the Olympics, we'll see more tournaments pop up, and then after the Olympics, there's usually a lull. You would think it'd be the opposite. After coming off Olympics, a lot of people watch it on TV and stuff. You think it would bring more tournaments to the tour, but usually it's the opposite.
You're seeing LeBron James make $30 million a year. You're seeing the average baseball salary, even for the utility player in Major League Baseball, pushing $5 million. You're out there kicking butt with your doubles partner for hours. As far as you and a televised sport, you're carrying a lot more than guys in a team sport are concerned. Do you ever get jealous of those guys, or you're saying, I should be making that kind of coin?
No. I mean, those sports are just way more popular, more people watch. And, I can't complain. I do pretty good out here on the beach. And, literally the beach is my office. So, a lot of people would jump into my spot if I were to retire or move on. So, like I said, I'm very fortunate, and I love it out here.
Well, your life's pretty good, and I guess you have some perspective. From Switzerland to Brooklyn to Ventura via Daytona. So, you've been able to see the world, and obviously you can see volleyball grow from all of those perspectives. Is it becoming more of a North American sport in your mind, especially with the colleges involved, or it's still just a California and Florida beach sport?
For girls, it has become a national sport. Now there's beach volleyball clubs popping up all over the place, in the Midwest, up in the North. And So it's not only, in California or in Florida, where you would expect it to be, but it's becoming indoor volleyball for girls, in my opinion, is now like Little League baseball for boys. Like almost every girl plays some sort of volleyball now, which is great.
Yeah, and it's only getting better. And I know it starts with the kids and certainly goes to the colleges. You're a UCF guy. You were obviously very influential in the college game. So do you think that the college game is getting the respect and the funding it deserves now? It's a work in progress, I know, but is it moving in the right direction?
It is. Again, it's just for the girls. There's beach, sand volleyball programs popping up all across the country. It's not just UCLA and USC and Stanford or whatever that have beach programs. It's University of South Carolina, Stetson University in Central Florida, Florida State University. So it's just grown and grown, and soon I got to think that the majority of universities in this country will have beach programs for girls.
Phil Dalhouser, one of the kings of the profession. When you talk to a lot of the guys and gals in comparable places, and I know this is flattering, but from your perspective, the Cal Ripkens, the Michael Jordans, they all talk about how important it is to give back to their respective sport. You guys, Todd, others who made the sport what it is and was, how do you give back, and how do you deal with? Is it an obligation? Do you do it out of the respect for the sport? What's your sense about the kind of generational legacy to all this?
Yeah, as I get older, I realize the importance of that, and my partner and I now do clinics around the country to kind of help out with teaching kids how to play. And the biggest thing for us is we see all these programs for girls. We're trying to get boys into the sport because boys, they have so many options, football, baseball, basketball, whatever. The list is endless, golf, tennis. So we're trying to get some boys out there and out on the beach or out in the sand court in, somewhere in Ohio. So we have a new flock of talent, a new generation of talent to represent the U.S.
The boys go out because the girls go out, but the bottom line is you got to get the boys to feel like it's cool, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, sometimes easier said than done, but with somebody like you, I'm sure it takes it to the next level. So just a couple more. You're a UCF guy. How do you feel about your Golden Knights going 13-0 and winning the mythical national championship? They call it Alabama, but you guys really did it, right?
Listen, all of Orlando is saying that, UCF won the national championship. They have a pretty good argument. They beat Auburn, who beat the two teams that were in the national championship, and they went undefeated. If you ask me, Alabama is the national champion, but I think they got to maybe move the playoff to 8 teams or so, and then just get rid of the throwaway games that teams play, like an Alabama will play a small Division I school and win whatever 85-0. What about take those games off the schedule and then add a few into a playoff to give a smaller school like UCF a chance? That's why March Madness is so good. Is you have Cinderella teams.
And the bottom line is, listen, I live in Florida too. The governor had a proclamation calling you guys the national champions. That's all anybody cares about, okay? Forget the college football playoff. That's all I'm saying. So final question for you. Where are you going to be and where's the sport going to be in 5 years?
I'm 38 right now, so I will be retired. Hopefully the traveling wears on me. I have 2 little kids. So being away kind of sucks. But I hope the sport is bigger and better in 5 years. I don't know. I can't say confidently it will be, but I can cross my fingers and hope.
Well, certainly the guys like you have a long legacy to make sure it is in the future, and the business metrics are lining up, but certainly your perspective and your involvement helps. Phil Dalhausser, Rick Horrow, sports professor, speak with you in a few. Well, Phil Dalhausser certainly gives us some perspective on volleyball, but let's talk about it from an international perspective. A newly released global industry survey says the worldwide sports media rights market is about $50 billion. Our traditional American sports, the NFL at about $7.3 billion, NBA at $4, Major League Baseball at $3.5. That's 36%, $18 billion of the overall total. The English Premier League, we know it well, $4.5 billion, the only non-U.S. based sports media property, generating more than $3 billion per year in revenue. And for reference purposes, the Champions League, La Liga, and Serie A bring in about $2.2 billion, 1.9 and 1.5 respectively. And major shifts in sports consumer preferences and tastes, as well as the NFL's recent troubles, may cause a reevaluation of opportunities, certainly from the international perspective, and it's all based on social media. Take a look at the NBA, social media-wise, here and abroad. Soccer still reigns supreme, the NBA's Instagram shining star domestically. The NBA's official account, by the way, 27 million followers, nearly doubling the NFL's at 11 and baseball's at 4 combined. In total, a whopping 3.7 billion video views on the platform last year. Surprise, shocker. LeBron James leads all U.S. athletes with 35.7 million followers, dwarfing Tom Brady's 4. And the Warriors lead all team accounts with 8 million followers. As new basketball stars and NBA prospects arise during the NCAA tournament, it'll be instructive to see how many new Instagram followers they gain alongside points, assists, and rebounds. And other international perspective, the NHL and the NHLPA, in conjunction with Live Nation, announced dates, local start times, locations, and ticketing information for the 2018 NHL Global Series and 2018 NHL Global Series Challenge. In January, NHL announced that Edmonton Oilers, Florida Panthers, and Jersey Devils and Winnipeg Jets will play regular season games in Europe as part of the slate. Oilers and Devils play their 18-19 season opening game against each other in Gothenburg, Sweden on October 6. Panthers and Jets face off in a pair of regular season games in Helsinki, Finland, November 1 and 2. And prior to the New Jersey-Edmonton season opening matchup, the Devils and Oilers will complete their training camps in Europe and will play in an exhibition match as part of the 2018 NHL Global Series Challenge. And even though we don't get to see NHL players compete in the Olympics this year, the Global Series Challenge gives hockey fans around the world a taste of the NHL and allows the league, rather than the IOC, to control the schedule and the accompanying revenue. Good for all of us and good for international hockey. How about golf? Tiger Woods and Woodstock is back. He moved to 149th in the official world ranking, up from 388, and won about $500,000 in prize money and second place finish at the Valspar. But when it comes to picking up the check, according to Golf World, there's no state he'd rather be in than Florida. He's earned $20 million in the Sunshine State, more than 20% of his $100 million in the U.S., and by the way, no taxes. Ohio, second, California, third, followed by Georgia, fourth. After 3 PGA starts this season, plenty of fist pumps and power shots remind golf fans of the old Tiger, and it feels like this might be the year Woods can finally bring his magic back to the sport. Golf fans seem to agree. Ticket prices skyrocketed in recent days for those who want to watch Tiger compete in the Masters. For the second time, by the way, since 2013. Unbelievable. He hasn't been there. According to ticket.iq.com, the average price of a single-day master ticket for this April, $3,000 on the secondary markets, compared to $2,500 $2,500 for last year's Masters. A renewed Tiger Mania effectively increased the price of entry at Augusta National by 20%, and we're still 4 weeks and several tourneys away. Unbelievable. Let's talk about philanthropy for a minute. We always should, and we try to do it as much as we can. Tom Brady gets a buzz cut for charity and raises $6.5 million. He got a cancer research donated, dedicated buzz cut, the annual Saving by Shaving at the Dana-Farber Institute in Boston. He showed off his new look, Instagram, after his long brown hair shaved down with a razor. Granite Telecommunications holds the event at its headquarters in Quincy, and the company pledged to give over $5 million to the Cancer Institute if 1,000 people shave their heads or beards. Granite Telecom says 1,200 people participated this year, and it'll contribute $6.5 million for its 5th annual event. Good for Tom Brady and good for everybody. And keep it in the football family, but Rich Eisen ran a 40-yard dash for charity. He steps into the starting block at the NFL Combine, runs a 40-yard dash. The NFL Network anchor using the platform to benefit St. Jude's, 14th consecutive year that Eisen ran a televised 40. He posted his best time in 2016, 5.94. Not bad. Bottom line is he raises a lot of money. And he gets Under Armour to match Courtyard by Marriott, AT&T, and the like, over $500,000. The Washington Capitals support TAPS, Courage Caps. The Washington Capitals team issued branded and team T-shirts, went on sale last week in partnership with Monumental Sports and Entertainment and the Caps. This season's Courage Caps campaign, sponsored by Telos. 100% of the proceeds benefiting the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, called TAPS. Or for the 7th consecutive season, TAPS is the beneficiary of Courage Caps. A nonprofit organization provides comfort and care for anyone grieving the death of someone who died while serving in the military. A 24/7 resource campaign, good for the Capitals. The bottom line is we will continue to update sports and philanthropy and giving us the living, breathing testament about the power of sports. Well, that's our show today, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to thank Phil Dalhouser injecting new life into volleyball, beach, and otherwise in the United States. We'd like to thank Tanner Simpkins and Dan Martin for putting this together. We'd like to thank all of you for watching and listening. We'd like to thank you for filling out your brackets for charity and otherwise. We know you're not going to have a perfect bracket, but at this time of year, everybody does. And we'd like you to think about joining us next week when we go Beyond the Scoreboard.